It was a day that began like any other. The sun cast early morning shadows across the thatched roofs that made our village, and golden hues over the fields. The early women weaved baskets as they spoke of their husbands and children. Children laughed and played in the open spaces, chasing each other through the maze of huts and out into the surrounding fields. Men worked the fields as they had from generations. Elders sat under the ancient baobab trees that graced our village, telling their stories. I knew UGONNA my whole life, growing up together since children. UGONNA, it was said, was a maiden of such beauty. Even the birds seemed to sing just for her. Despite this, she was a humble soul, never realizing the effect her presence had on others. That fateful afternoon, I was with UGONNA at the riverbank. We were collecting water, laughing at the antics of the children splashing nearby. The tranquility of our day was shattered by the sudden arrival of strangers. They were unlike any we had seen before, their skin pale as the moon, their eyes cold and calculating. They brought gifts of beads, mirrors, and trinkets. Our elders, curious and unaware, welcomed them. In the days that followed, though, more strangers arrived, and they began to speak with some of our own, making deals and exchanging goods. The elders did not know the true price of these seemingly benign objects. On the third market day of the week, as was the custom, UGONNA and myself, along with the other village youth, would go to perform in the market square. UGONNA loved to sing and dance. Her grace and beauty shone before all that saw her. But her beauty, though unnoticed by herself, was coveted by others. That evening the air was still, the sun just sinking below the huts that graced the village. As the youth strolled home, their voices chattering about their spectacular performance that day, suddenly we were taken bound and dragged away. We had been lured into a trap. UGONNA, despite her effort to escape, we were among those that were taken. The entire village was devastated when they discovered what had happened. Mothers, fathers, families had lost their children, swallowed into the dense forest. Some men from our village had traded our people for the white men's goods. They had sold their own for mere trinkets and false promises. And so our journey to the coast had begun. The days were long and torturous, the nights cold and filled with the cries of the suffering. The attention of our captors was a constant threat. UGONNA, though physically unbroken, bore the emotional weight of the betrayal. How could those we knew have done this? As we marched, the landscape changed, but our suffering remained constant. Herded like cattle, driven by clubs and curses, many fell by the forest path, unable to keep up with the brutal pace. Our captors showed no mercy, their eyes devoid of humanity. UGONNA's spirit, however, remained unbroken. She walked with her head held high, her eyes burning with a fierce determination. She whispered words of encouragement to those around her, telling them to hold on, to believe that we would be saved. Her strength became a beacon for us all. One night as we camped by a river, UGONNA led us in song. Her voice, though strained, carried through the night, lifting our spirits. We sang of our homeland, of the fields and forests we had left behind. The songs brought tears to our eyes, but also a sense of unity and hope. The white men, warming themselves by the fire, watched us with cold, suspicious eyes. They could not understand the power of our songs. They could chain our bodies, but our spirits remained free. UGONNA's defiance gave us strength, and we continued our march with renewed resolve. As dawn broke on a cold, misty morning, their ship arrived. The sight of their massive ships filled us with dread, and as we stood on the dock, it towered above us like a massive black coffin that had seen many merciless trips. Finally, we were forced on board. For the men, though, they were packed tightly into dark, airless holds. The space was so cramped they were forced to either crouch or lie down. Women and children were kept in a separate hold to the men, sometimes even on deck, allowing them a limited amount of freedom, but also exposing them to other evils such as violence and abuse from the crew. The fear and dread for what lay ahead of us was overwhelming. The days on the ship blended into an endless nightmare. For the most part, we were crammed into the dark, foul-smelling hold where the air was thick. We were treated as nothing more than cargo, their cruelty knowing no bounds. Disease and death were our constant companions. Those who died were just thrown overboard, their bodies sinking into the endless ocean. The greatest cruelty was those thrown overboard who were still alive, their distant muffled cries heard as they clung to their last breath of life. Even here, UGONNA's beauty did not go unnoticed. One day, a group of sailors descended into the hold, their eyes full of cruel greed and desire. Taking a special interest in UGONNA, her beauty having caught their attention, they tried to coax her with better food and false promises, but UGONNA remained steadfast, her moral values unshaken. As their frustration grew and they singled her out for mistreatment, isolating her from the rest of us and giving her only enough food and water to keep her alive. The thought of UGONNA, confined and suffering, so greatly broke our hearts, but it also fueled our determination. UGONNA became a beacon of hope. We could hear her voice, though so weak from hunger, singing songs of our homeland, of freedom, and of a future where we would be reunited with our loved ones again, lifting the spirits of the broken and the dying. She encouraged us to hold on, to believe that we would be saved, giving us the courage to endure the living hell of the ship and not lose hope. We whispered words of encouragement to each other, vowing to survive and honor her strength. Weeks turned into months, and the journey seemed endless. Constantly plagued by hunger, thirst, and disease, many more of us died, their bodies tossed overboard into the vast, unforgiving ocean. Yet somehow we held on, clinging to the belief that we would one day be free. UGONNA's songs and spirit gave us hope, even in our darkest moments.